Mets fans, it is 11 p.m. Eastern, and the impossible has happened. Something that we did not expect to happen at this juncture in the season. The Mets, tomorrow, according to Joel Sherman, the first writer to break the news, are calling up their coveted, their star, their top prospect in Francisco effing Alvarez. He's making his long-awaited debut for the team in Queens, and his debut is likely going to happen against the Atlanta Braves in the most important series of the year. How's it going, everybody? We're juiced up. I just got home from going to the movies. I was tired. I was going to go to bed early. I'm getting people spamming me on Twitter. Wardy, you got to stream. You got to do this. You got to do that. I'm like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? What is happening here on a late night and off day before you play the Atlanta Braves? Francisco Alvarez is making his long-awaited debut, and for everyone wondering, he is playoff eligible. He was on the 40-man roster. He is eligible for playoffs in the scenario that he comes out and he makes an impression right away that is warranted of having him on this postseason club. So, what does this mean for the New York Mets? Is this a good move for the New York Mets? What is my raw reaction and analysis on Francisco Alvarez's call-up and his overall game? That is what we are deep diving. But more than anything, spam those W's in the chat right now, guys. I want to see, how are you feeling? Francisco Alvarez, the myth, the legend, the man who, again, is the future of the Mets catching position for the next decade. The most hyped-up catcher the Mets have had, quite literally, since someone like Mike Piazza. That is how good this guy is, and I do not expect him behind the plate much, if at all. I expect him to be DHing mainly to start out against lefties. He's basically going to be in that Vientos and Ruff role, but for the Mets, they bring out Francisco Alvarez. We all know the talent. We all know the home run power. We all know what this kid is capable of. Now he will have a chance to showcase his abilities right before the Mets are about to wrap up their season, and right as they are potentially just one series away from putting this division on lock for the NL East. Wow! I am mind blown. I am boggled. Who expected this tonight? Who expected this? I know a lot of people are going to be watching this on replay, guys. We're not going to go terribly long tonight, but I feel bamboozled. I mean, out of all the times that you thought that the Mets would do a call-up for either Beatty or even Vientos, it never happened when you expected it to, and the Mets dropped this bomb on us once again, this time in Francisco Alvarez. I'm pumped. Look, I'm not going to go under the notion that Francisco Alvarez is going to come out here and be the best thing since sliced bread. If he does anything impactful right away, that's a plus for this team. The Mets are still trying to find answers at the DH position against lefties, especially because they haven't gotten consistent production. So now they're like, you know what? We know the Syracuse season is over in AAA. Francisco Alvarez this year just had a monster year splitting time in AA and AAA. Had a slow start. Was not hitting consistently at all that we saw there at the AAA level when he was first brought up. Then he dealt with his ankle injury, but he really got himself together in AAA before the year ended. Alvarez overall had an 825 OPS in AAA this year in 45 games with the Syracuse Mets. Had himself a total of 9 home runs and 31 RBIs. What was he doing in AA? Leading up to that point, Alvarez in 67 games of AA this year, 18 home runs, 47 RBIs, and a 922 average. Alvarez really picked up the pace. He was someone that was batting below the Mendoza line for a while at the AAA level after he was shortly called up, but he really picked up the heat. He had a phenomenal month of September coming back from his ankle injury. We thought that Alvarez was going to be done for the season at one point, and now we see that the guy isn't just wrapping up a great season for Syracuse, but the Mets call him up. I mean, I'm truly jaw-dropped. I did not expect this to happen. I did not. But what I do know now is the Mets have options. They're weighing their options now. They're going to see what the kid can do, especially that DH spot. There's a pot, maybe. I'm not going to get ahead of myself, but there is a slim possibility that he'll even start at DH tomorrow against Max effing Fried. I mean, anything can happen now. You don't call up the kid to not give him playing time. Francisco Alvarez was called up so the Mets can give him some at-bats before the year ends see what they have in him in that very, very short sample size, and then come to a conclusion on how they want to orchestrate their playoff roster. Because again, it's not like they can give him any more time in AAA. The year is done. Syracuse wrapped up yesterday. So now it's time to give these guys more of a leash while they can without it being a detriment to the Mets winning or losing the ball game. So Alvarez comes in now as the young stud. This kid, what is he? Only 21 years of age, if I'm not mistaken, is Francisco Alvarez. Alvarez, he's 20 years old still. He'll be 21 before the year wraps up because he's a late 20. He's not even 21 yet, and he was just called up to the New York Mets. I mean, guys, make sure to spam those W's. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Greatly appreciate. Help us get to a couple hundred likes by the end of the live show and help us get to 18K subs for the next short-term goal. We are also less than 100 subs away from giving away this Max Scherzer strikeout bobblehead. So make sure to subscribe. Once we hit 17.7K subs on the channel, I'm giving away this beautiful bobblehead to one lucky subscriber. So I really hope that is in fact you. Make sure to spam those buttons, guys. I got to share more of my raw reactions here to the Mets actually making this happen. It'll be made official tomorrow at the time of recording this, being live right here again this Thursday night. But it's going to happen. It's officially a thing, and I'm truly at a loss for words. I'm so caught off guard by this. My man Grant, Jenny Mets, make sure to check him out on Twitter. Phenomenal Twitter page, even more phenomenal of the man. Grant, thank you so much for the dono. Hope you're having a great night, brother. Thank you so much for that. Yoshima with the $2 dono. Francisco, yeah, absolutely. Dos, thank you so much for the dono. I appreciate you, my man. So sick that the Mets were able to do this because, again, I do not know how much of a leash he is going to get. I really do not know. That's a big wild card that we're going to quickly find out in this Braves series and then against the Nationals. But Francisco Alvarez, let me get some more quick, then we'll talk. For those that do not know who Francisco Alvarez is, he has been the Mets' top prospect for the most part since he's arrived, when he signed as an international free agent with a big signing bonus of over $2 million a couple of years ago. Alvarez has absolutely dominated the minor leagues. He has such strong power at the age of 20 that he is light years ahead of guys at his age and at the catching position. It is so hard to find top prospects at the catching position as is that hit and have plus power, but Alvarez is that anomaly of a player. That's why he's not only the top prospect for the New York Mets, he is the top prospect in effing baseball. This is not no slouch. This man is not even officially 21 years of age yet, and he leads the face of MLB's minor leaguers. He is that effing good. The slugging, off the charts. The defense with catching still needs some work. That's something that is going to continue to develop at. But again, this late in the year, I do not expect Alvarez to be catching much, if at all. He does not have much of a background with these Mets pitchers, as we know. Even though that, yes, he has caught Jake, and he has caught that being in Scherzer this year from them building up their rehab starts. He doesn't have that experience. So I would be beyond surprised to see Alvarez, one, starting a couple games before the end of the year, but two, more importantly, actually being at the backstop. It's going to be at the DH. This guy rakes against lefties. He is a lefty killer, just like Mark Vientos. Mark Vientos only has 4 hits in his career since being called up by the New York Mets. They are all for RBIs. He had his first career home run back in Oakland in that series, which was great to see. But Alvarez is still someone that you can tell that the Mets are not sold on yet, and they want to weigh all options possible from their minor leagues before they come to a conclusion on how this roster is going to shape up come playoff time. And hey, as much as there is risk to this in the sense of if the Mets start this kid and say he does not perform well, the upside, however, is that you have these endless options DH-wise on the roster as is. So it's not like you need to give the kid a ridiculously long leash if, say, he struggles mightily from the jump and he's a factor in, say, losing a ball game to the Braves. Like, the Mets are fully aware of that. That's why. But when you look at how underwhelming Darren Ruff has been at the DH position for the Mets, this guy has been anything but good since the Mets acquired him. Talk about a Jekyll and Hyde trade. The San Francisco Giants won that trade. It's not even close in hindsight. At the time, it seemed like it was a good deal because the numbers would tell you that with him raking against lefties, but he hasn't done it since arriving in Queens. Mark Vientos, someone that, again, hasn't done anything crazy at the MLB level yet, only has 4 career hits. Thankfully, they've all been impactful, but the Mets want to find more at that spot. And again, with there only being 2 series left this year, knowing how much is at stake, knowing that you want to make sure that you have your 1 through 9 as locked and loaded as possible, you have little to lose in this situation if you are the New York Mets, bringing up the top prospect in baseball to see what he can do at the MLB level, give him some at-bats. And again, if Alvarez comes out and makes an impact from the jump, he may find himself on this playoff roster. It might be far-fetched because I feel like the Mets are still going to favor a pinch runner like Terrence Gore because I feel like Gore is that last spot for position players. I could be wrong. I feel like he has the edge over, say, Darren Ruff. Could Tyler Naquin not be on the playoff roster? I find that far-fetched as well, but we don't know right now. Again, the Mets have endless options that they are weighing, and it is the best time possible to give this kid an opportunity now and just see where that takes you. At absolute worst, he does not perform in these final 2 series, and then okay, that's perfectly fine. He won't be on the playoff roster. Mets get set for playoffs, and then we reassess things with Francisco next year because, again, there's nothing to lose for Francisco Alvarez if you're in this situation. All you have is to gain the knowledge at the MLB level and the ability to make this debut before the year ends. That was his goal. He said it, guys, entering this year. A man who only played high A baseball entering this year in spring training said, I will make sure I'm on the New York Mets before the year ends. He has made sure that is, in fact, now a reality. It is up to him to see what he can do. It's a tall task to ask the kid to do anything at all impressive when you only have 6 games left on the season. But again, the world's your oyster, Francisco. Go out there and grab it. This is your opportunity now to see if you can have an impact for the Mets and just maybe find yourself having an opportunity come playoff time. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited. Again, this kid's 20 years old. He's 20 years old, and he's the face of the MLBs and its farm systems. He is the GOAT of minor leaguers right now, of prospects. This is exciting if you are a Mets fan. This adds more fuel to the fire to this Braves series. This adds more juice. This adds everything. I mean, this series, you thought it was juiced up enough. If the Mets win this series, they, again, are in a phenomenal spot to win the division. If the Mets sweep the series, they win the division on Sunday. If the Mets just win 1 game in this series, they have the tiebreaker. So the ball is still in their court to win, to win the division, one facing the Nationals. The only way that this weekend can go wrong for the New York Mets truly is if they get swept by the Atlanta Braves. As long as they avoid that, at minimum, they are in a great spot on locking down this division. And again, when it comes to playoff time, Buck has decisions to make, not only with the position players, but also with the pitching staff. Who's going to be your number 4 starter? We discussed that and Bleav in Queens episode 25 that came out earlier today. Make sure to check it out here on YouTube, guys, on the WardyNYM YouTube channel as you're watching this, or wherever you get your podcasts. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, Google, all those. Literally anywhere and everywhere you get your podcasts. Check it out. Great discussion. Myself, Joe Sorello, and the sports talk legend himself. Phenomenal TV host, phenomenal radio host, that being in Casey Stern, who was actually on the Jim Rome show today as well, talking baseball. So, again, make sure to check it out. Let me get to some donations, guys, and we'll advance forward here in the show. Like I said, it's not going to be a crazy launch show tonight. We just have to share raw reactions here. This is a big deal. I was not waiting until tomorrow to get this out there. We know it's not official yet. Pardon me. We know it's not official yet, but it will be made official. That's exactly why that when we saw the news to Vientos and to Beatty, we break the news right away because it's a guaranteed situation to happen. Thank you, Joel Sherman, for being the first to drop this report, if I'm not mistaken. I'm ecstatic. This is huge. Again, if the kid does nothing, it's perfectly fine. It's literally perfectly fine if he doesn't do anything. This is only a win-win situation for himself and for the New York Mets. You have your laundry list of options at DH, and how many of them have consistently performed for you this year? Slim to none. Daniel Vogelbach has like a 140 plus WRC plus with the Mets, and he also has over 800 OPS. Vogelbach hasn't been terrible, hasn't been as consistent as we'd like to see, especially this past month. Darren Ruff has been anything but good. Mark Vientos is still inexperienced. I love Marky V, though. I don't know what this means for him going forward, if his at-bats opportunities are done now or what. I don't know what is going to happen. Maybe we're going to see Alvarez catch, even though I find that as, again, a real big question mark that I would be surprised if happens. What I do know is that for us Mets fans, this is big news. This is big news because this is the face, potentially the face of your franchise for years to come, that has finally gained a taste at the MLB level, and it's likely going to begin in the biggest series of the entire 2022 season for the New York Metropolitans. Let me see here what donos you guys got for me, though, and then we'll advance forward here in the show. Ed, thank you for the dono. This mean Ruff going to get DFA'd. Ruff, I don't think he's going to get DFA'd. We'll see what happens with him, though. Ruff can't, I don't know what's going to happen with Ruff. We'll see. But Ruff on the playoff roster, not looking likely at this juncture. And hey, I mean, look, this guy has had enough opportunities now to consider at minimum internal options for the Mets. And that doesn't just include Mark Vientos. That doesn't just include, let's see. Guys, you need to realize Ruff won't get DFA'd. It'll be Lee or Plummer. Someone on the 40-man. Marte will also probably be moved to the 60-day IL. There's no chance in hell that Marte is getting moved to the 60-day IL, Thomas. Do not give me a heart attack like that, please. Because if he gets moved to the 60-day IL, then that means that he's not going to be available for postseason, at least for a good majority of it. Because he hasn't even been on the IL for like a month, not even a full month. So I hope that is not true, Thomas. Don't spew that negativity in here. I could definitely see Nick Plummer or clearly being DFA'd because the Mets already dropped Nick Plummer once this year. So it wouldn't be surprised if we saw that happen again. Yoshimo, thank you so much for the dono. Appreciate that. Alvarez is now the youngest player in MLB. Yeah, that's nuts. That's literally insane. You know how insane it is to be a 20-year-old making your MLB debut? That's like unprecedented. These things do not happen often. This happens if you're a top draft pick. You know, if you're the Bryce Harpers of the world, for instance, if you are the Juan Sotos of the world, like either top draft pick or international stars. And that's what Soto was. Top draft pick, of course, is what Harper was, what Trout was. But I mean, you're 20 years of age and you're a catcher slash DH, ridiculous power in that righty bat. I mean, when Alvarez makes contact, guys, the ball just sounds different. It is not the same. This is a man amongst children, even with him being at the age of 20. That is how much strength this guy has for being 5'10", 220, 240. He's insane. Ed, thank you so much for the dono. I love bringing up the kids. This team is littered with great vets for them to work with, and it gives our future experience in high leverage situation. Exactly, Ed. Again, this is only a win-win for the Mets. If he doesn't perform, fine. You reassess things next year with Alvarez hoping to make the team out of spring training. But for now, give him an opportunity, see if he can succeed. If he is a hot bat from the jump for the Mets, making his debut, then that type of hot bat is what you can ride in playoffs with him making the playoff roster over a cold bat like a Darren Ruff, or to a different degree, a Mark Vientos. Thank you so much again for that dono. I appreciate that. Let's see, Ego, thank you for the dono. Can we get a Gary Keith Ron and do the playoff games? I wish, man. I wish. You know, the fact that they don't is the most ridiculous thing to me. I think it's so disrespectful by the MLB because this team, these broadcasters cover the team all year long. They are the face of the New York Mets. And then you just bitch slap them by having me listen to some Joe Schmo schmucks on Fox or ESPN over the best booth in baseball. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I can give a rat's ass about listening to any other broadcast. I want my crew at SNY. And it sucks that we're not going to be able to get them much. You'll get Ron because he'll be with TBS, but that's about it. Second at bat tomorrow, he hits it out. GKR is doing one postseason series on SNY. I heard that would be amazing. I pray that's the case. Gain chills when Austin Wells and Alvarez dominate the catching position for both NY teams. That'll be the future of NY at the catching spot is fun for sure. Yeah, I'm curious to see when Wells is, going to make an impact for the Yanks, and I'm really curious to see what's going to happen here. Richie, Worry man, I told my car driving home from work last night, listening to you celebrate the win on the live stream. Hit a deer. Holy shit, Richie. I am so sorry to hear that. Jesus Christ. That is horrifying. I am so sorry to hear that. My God, I just hope that you were looking at the road and it was a situation where you were like listening, say through your car. Man, oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so grateful that you are okay though. I'm so sorry about your car, but I'm happy that it seems like you are physically okay. My God, Richie, thank you so much for your support. I'm so sorry to hear that though. Like what? That's like what? And here I thought the Alvarez news alone was the most shocking thing I was going to find out tonight. Like, what? Bruh. Holy shit, Richie. I'm glad you're okay, though. Because I feel like if you weren't okay, you wouldn't be texting that right now. My God. I'm so sorry to hear that, bro. I really am. I appreciate your support, though. Seriously. That's crazy, though. Non-baseball related, but prayers up for Tua. Yeah, I don't know. What is Tua's status right now? I don't know what his status is right now for Tua. Speaking of car accidents, NFL-wise, not Tua, that's separate. Myles Garrett just got in a huge wreck with his Porsche. That was crazy, too. Tim, thank you so much for the dono. Hope you don't mind, Tyler. I have 1 to 3 tickets to every postseason home game for sale, section 301 at Mets Veteran Twitter and LFGM. Tim, that is amazing. And Tim, you're going to have to text me off air because I would not be surprised if I took you up on that a little bit, at least for like one more game, because I'm going to one playoff game, the first playoff game of the year for the Mets. But I will gladly take you up and potentially another one. So we'll stay in touch off air. But regardless, though, guys, if you want playoff tickets, hit up my man Tim. He's a GOAT. He's at so many Mets games, especially with the 7 line, section 301 at Mets Veteran. Check him out on Twitter if you guys are interested. Thank you for that dono. Guys, Brett Beatty hit his first career home run in his debut against the Atlanta Braves. The Mets are in Atlanta this series. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say. Quick breakdown, Francisco Alvarez is the #1 prospect in baseball. He isn't as known for his defense catching-wise as he is known for his amazing home run power. This guy has potential to be one of the best slugging catchers in all of baseball when he hits his prime, his peak, rather. He is the most coveted Mets prospect, most coveted, hyped-up Mets catcher that they have had since the man on the wall behind me and Mike Piazza. That is how good, that is how talented, regardless of the raw talent aspect, that is how impressive Francisco Alvarez is. He is the #1 prospect, not only in the Mets farm system, but in all of baseball. I saw MJF say meet the Mets in Philly yesterday. That was funny. Harrison, please stop saying that. I appreciate it. Quite a coincidence with Beatty hitting his first home run against Atlanta. Exactly. Again, that's all I'm going to say. Gary Sanchez 2.0, unfortunately, farthest thing from the truth. Mets will make sure that they work on this kid's defense and get him to at least being an average defender, or again, having things work at DH. And that's the beauty about having a universal DH. The fact that the Mets have that gives them the ability to give a leash to someone like this if the defense is not going. Why is this good, Geraldo? Because you literally have nothing to lose. That's why. That's why. All you have is a gain if you're Francisco Alvarez, and all you have to gain for the New York Mets. There's no way that the Mets lose in this scenario by giving him some at-bats before the year ends, because if he performs at all, then you might have potential for a lefty killer in that DH spot, what you haven't gone from Darren Ruff, and what you haven't gotten as much as maybe you'd like from Mark Vientos. And if he doesn't hit, That's perfectly fine. You reassess things with him next year. There's no way in hell the Mets lose in this situation. Have a good night, Thomas. Thank you so much for chiming in. And guys, we're going to be wrapping up the show shortly, so continue to let me know more of your raw thoughts and reactions to this. Make sure to smash that like and subscribe on as well. Dom DH said Vogelback next 6 games. No, not going to happen. Nope. No. Vogie's still better, in my opinion, than Dom. Vogie has better eye at the plate. And again, Vogie, as long as he's just not taking strikes down the dick the way that he has been a lot lately, he's good. I just want to see more of that pop in Vogie's bat. He sparked things a little bit, you know, especially against his former team. And then we haven't seen much from him. But in his defense, he didn't play like at all against Oakland. And then he only had those small at-bats against Miami. So for the most part, he's been playing. Vogie has been playing better as of late. If you remember how he did prior to the Pirates series. You know, Brewers, he was solid. And then, especially Pirates at home, look good. What's a corresponding move? We'll find out tomorrow, Ryan. I'm glad that I was able to explain it well for you, Geraldo. Thank you so much for chiming in, brother. Mr. Smith, I would argue that there isn't really much pressure on Alvarez here. This is not a situation where the Mets are asking him to be the guy and that he single-handedly dictates that the Mets win the division or something. I mean, the Mets already have a deep lineup as is. All this does for Alvarez is just to give him the experience. The Mets lineup is deep enough where they should be able to hold their own regardless of what Alvarez does or doesn't do. So I understand the pressure aspect in the sense of it being a playoff atmosphere against these Braves, but I think that's as far as it goes. All right, guys, hold on. I'm just checking. Yeah, I still can't get over the fact that he's 20 effing years old, guys. He's literally 20. He's 20, guys. Insane. So, guys, we're going to be wrapping up the show here in a minute. Like I said, we're not doing a late show tonight or anything of that nature. I got to get out of here soon. We got to get ready, too, because tomorrow is a big, big day for the New York Mets, and Francisco Alvarez gets to make his debut. So that's a lot of big news as well. But guys, before I get out of here, before we wrap things up, continue smashing those buttons. Thank you guys all so much in advance. The New York Mets are finally bringing up Francisco Alvarez. Now, before I get out of here, my question to you guys is in the live show right now, in the chat, and for people on replay, let me know in the comments below. Do you think Francisco Alvarez is going to perform enough in a 2-series span to warrant being considered heavier than Darren Ruff and Mark Vientos as that bat DH off the bench as a lefty killer? Do you think Alvarez is going to prove enough in this small of a sample size to warrant him potentially being on the playoff roster? There's no right or wrong answer here. I just want personal opinions, because for me, it can really go any way, and I'll be perfectly satisfied anyway. So, literally, if he does nothing, the last thing I'm gonna do is gripe on this kid in a six game span. You can't do that, and he's only 20. So literally, if he does anything, I will be ecstatic. Literally anything. Next, Grant Hartwig. Thank you so much for the dono, Shrek, and I appreciate that. Jack feels confident. He says, you know what? Yes, I do. I like that. I like that, guys. Guys, I'm excited. Biggest series of the year starts tomorrow. Today, maybe when you guys are watching, especially for people on replay. I'm going to get out of here, though, folks. We'll be covering this entire series. Atlanta Braves, New York Mets, starting this Friday. Jacob deGrom on the bump. Max Fried on the bump. Let's fucking go. Love you guys to death. Have a great rest of your night, great rest of your day, evening, whenever you're watching this. This is Wardy signing out saying Francisco Alvarez has officially been called up by the New York Mets. Bang, bang. Peace out, folks. Have a great one.